Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So now that we're about a month away from the 2024 NHL draft, I thought I'd ramp up some more content regarding that. So we're going to be looking at a mock draft today from the Daily Faceoff. When looking at this year's draft, a lot of unpredictability after the first overall. Last year, there was some factors of Matvei Michkov, Zach Benson falling, but this year it is far more up in the air. Guys like TJ Ginla really rising of late, Bennett Seneca, other things like the defensemen in this draft, 1 through 5, you can order it any other way, and I could understand where you're coming from. One guy could go second overall to the Chicago Blackhawks. It wouldn't shock me, but if that same guy fell to 13th overall, would not shock me. It is all over the place. It is one of the most interesting draft cycles of recent memory. Is it one of the best drafts? No, but I think it actually is a pretty average to above average. It's definitely not 2023 good, but it's not 2022 kind of lackluster. So we're going to go through it right now. It comes to us from the Daily Faceoff, Stephen Ellis. Of course, he writes about Macklin Celebrini sweepstakes, San Jose Sharks won it. Draft is on the 27th, 28th. I'll be in attendance. Anybody else that's also tagging along at Sphere, going to be nuts. All right, first two picks. Demidov at second overall. Celebrini, obviously, at first. We don't really need to talk about that too much. He's obviously going to go first overall, but Demidov at second overall. Yeah, I think that this should be the pick for the Chicago Blackhawks, although they definitely still maybe need that franchise defenseman in an Artem Leshinov, a Sam Dickinson, one of those guys that they could eventually pick to pair with a Kevin Korchinski. I think that they should just go best player available. Next year, you got guys like Logan Hensler, and I think that, as well as other 2025 defensemen that could potentially be future number ones. I think if you're Chicago, you're not expecting to be the 9th or 10th best team in the entire NHL next year. They're going to stink as well. They're going to be picking pretty high up in the draft order. So I think they should select Demidov. Demidov is the second best player in this draft. Historic numbers in the MHL, fantastic playmaker. I wouldn't hate it as long as it's not someone completely off the board. Like I said before, if they take Carter Yakimchuk at second overall, that would kind of blow my mind. But if they did go with Leshinov, I wouldn't hate it. But I think Demidov is the clear pick here. What's the next pick? 3 and 4. Artem Leshinov at 3, and then Konsta Helenius at 4th overall. Let's look at Leshinov first. I think that if Leshinov falls to the Anaheim Ducks, they probably should select him. I think as a right-handed defenseman, Minchikov is left-handed, I believe, so I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of Leshinov, and I think Leshinov is a better prospect than Minchikov coming out. I think Leshinov would be their future number 1 two-way defenseman, and that three-headed monster of Zellweger, Minchikov, and Leshinov would be one of the best top 3 young defense trios in the entire NHL. I think you lock them up. I don't think you need a Helenius, Lindstrom. I think your young forwards are pretty set in stone, but after trading Jamie Drysdale for Gauthier, you do maybe need another young defenseman. I think that's great. Konsta Helenius at 4th overall. I don't want to fully... okay. Yeah, I don't want to see that 5th overall pick. I've not seen this, by the way. I've not seen this yet. I'm blind reacting. Konsta Helenius at 4th overall. I think this would be a shock, although I'm very high on Konsta Helenius. Let's see what he says. Having a number 1 center do. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you think Fantilli's the franchise superstar offensive guy, Helenius is more of that high floor, low ceiling type. I think he's going to consistently be like a 55 to 60 point guy. Could he eventually become an Aho type two-way finished beast? Yes, but I think that he definitely has a smaller ceiling than some other guys in this draft that you could take at 4th overall. If I'm Columbus, though, I'm still just going best player available. And Helenius here, I'm not 1,000% sure that he's the best player available, even though I have him in my top 7. That would be very interesting. That would be a shock, in my opinion. Not sure they're going to eventually go down that route. Maybe they liked what they saw to Mikko Koivu when he was there for 10 games towards the end of his career. At 5th overall, Caden Lindstrom, Zeev Boyum heading to Utah. Caden Lindstrom, I think this would be a fantastic fit for the Montreal Canadiens. A Caden Lindstrom and Slavkovsky line. Dude, that'd be a problem. 6'3", 6'4", with Nick Suzuki centering them or something. I think Caden Lindstrom would be a very, very good fit for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of that high ceiling. He has one of the highest ceilings in the entire draft this year. I think that would be a slam dunk pick for the Montreal Canadiens at 5th overall. Boyum to Utah, I like it. They do have a decent amount of left-handed defensemen, but Boyum would become their future number 1 defenseman. When looking at this guy, fantastic at the college level. Historic numbers, the best freshman year by a 17-year-old of all time. And when looking at Utah, they do have Cooley, Michelli, Doan, Gunther. They're pretty set in terms of forwards. It wouldn't hurt to get another one, Daniil Boot. But with a guy like Simashev, a Simashev-Boyum pairing down the line, I believe Simashev's right-handed. That would be very interesting. You got your 6'6", more so defensive guy with the Zeev Boyum. I would like to see that. 7th overall, Zane Parrick. Yeah, I feel like Parrick is this is looking like my goddamn mock. Zane Parrick, 7. I had Dickinson to Utah, but I had Zane Parrick to the Ottawa Senators at 7th overall. I think this would be another slam dunk similar to Montreal Canadiens, considering the Senators badly need a right-handed defenseman and more so of an offensive dynamo because Sanderson's more so their very, very good defensive two-way guy. I think they should take a swing on a Zane Parrick. He's a pretty controversial prospect to a degree. I'm not really sure why. Maybe his defensive game isn't quite where you want it to be, but I prefer to see guys explode offensively when they're young, teach them defense down the line instead of just having no offense and not being able. With the way the game is trending overall, although your defenseman does have to play defense, don't get me wrong, but I bet on Zane Parrick's offensive tools, and he's just such a good skater that he is going to work out defensively. Anton Silyev to the Seattle Kraken. Makes sense. They kind of need to go defenseman after getting going. Shane Wright, Matty Beniers haven't really swung that high on a defenseman of late. Guy has all the potential in the world at 6'7", could potentially be the next Zdeno Chara. That's the most lazy comp of all time, but it does make sense considering they're both very good skaters and around the same height. But yeah, I like that for the Seattle Kraken. TJ Ginla to the Calgary Flames. I had Montreal taking Ginla 5th overall. I think that is a possibility. If he falls to 9th for the Calgary Flames, I think you can kind of write that one. That's set in stone. He was very, very good this year for the Kelowna Rockets. I think that he is worthy of a top 15 pick. I probably have him somewhere between the 12 and 15 range, not quite 9, but I think this would be a good pick for the Calgary Flames. As he goes on to say, it's not because of nepotism. He's a fantastic prospect in his own right. And the fact that he is showing out in his draft year, I think that is showing that maybe he's a late bloomer. And given his DNA, given his genes, I would probably bet on TJ Ginla to be a good player. 10th overall, Devils go Cole Eiserman. This would be very interesting. Yeah, as they say, Jack Hughes setting up Eiserman like he used to with Cole Caulfield. I think the Devils should go forward here, considering they already have Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Nemitz, Seamus Casey's looking very promising. So although Cole Eiserman probably wouldn't be my best player available, I think Sam Dickens is a much better prospect than Cole Eiserman. Maybe fit-wise, you think Cole Eiserman can play rather soon just with his amazing shot. This would be interesting because, yeah, he would have the center help, whether it's Nico Hischier or Jack Hughes. I think if you're a team that's more so deeper in a rebuild, you're probably not going Cole Eiserman because he needs to have that more so playmaking center. But in New Jersey, you would have all the help in the world around him, especially if once he got to that level and he's on the top power play, that would be fantastic to watch. Sam Dickinson to the Buffalo Sabres. Solid, very solid. Buffalo doesn't really have to pick by position. They have promising young forwards, promising young defensemen. So I think at this pick, you probably just go best player available. And at 11th, to get a Sam Dickinson, that is another guy that has a very high floor, in my opinion, while also having a pretty high ceiling. Sam Dickinson is that ideal 6'2", two-way defenseman who's very good this year for the London Knights. 12th overall, 13th. Berkeley Cadden falling to the Philadelphia Flyers at 12th would be a steal. I can't believe how much I'm seeing Berkeley Cadden outside of the top 10. I understand he doesn't have the most desirable measurables in terms of he's like 5'10", 5'11", like 160, 165 pounds. He definitely needs to put on some weight, but this guy had 116 points in the WHL this year. For context, Leon Draisaitl had like 105. He is a beast. He is a playmaker's playmaker. He makes things happen. Maybe he won't be a franchise superstar piece, but he is going to be an elite center, 65, 70 point guy, I think, most likely at the next level. Maybe even eventually get the point per game if he has a lot of talent around him. He's going to be a stud. And then Carter Yakimchuk to the Wild. Yeah, it makes sense. Right-handed defenseman, although Brock Faber is also a right-handed defenseman. I believe all the top defensemen have gone at this point. So if they're left with the Carter Yakimchuk, I wouldn't hate that. I think Carter Yakimchuk definitely has a lower ceiling than basically the 4 guys that are ahead of him, but still can be a very, very, very good second pair. Maybe he should be. Honestly, if you're taking him at 13th overall, he should be a top pair guy, but considering Faber's there, he's going to be a very, very good second pair guy for the Minnesota Wild. 14th, San Jose Sharks, Adam Jiricek. I had Jiricek going to the San Jose Sharks in a prior mock. It makes sense considering last year they go Will Smith, they go Quinn Musty with their late first. Do they go defenseman with this 14th, considering they're going to take Celebrini at first overall? I personally wouldn't force a defenseman. I think past this point, it really is up for grabs. There's no clear, as I said before, there's like a clear top 12, 13 in this draft. So at this point, if they think Jiricek's the best, go for it. And maybe they should go with a defenseman, but next year they're going to be pretty high. If they don't get Higgins, they're probably taking a Logan Hensler. So that'll be interesting to see play out. For Detroit, Trevor Connolly. Solid player, very solid player. I believe, yeah, he's the one that took the very, very dumb penalty in that U18 World Juniors. Stunk, dude. 5-minute major. Canada scores 2 or 3 goals on that, but he's still a very good prospect. He's like 6'1", 6'2", solid two-way winger. Who we got at 16th? Michael Brandsegg, knee guard. When looking at him, yeah, he's more of a pro-ready player. I think after, he's going to need one more year in the SHL, but I think after that, he can probably come right over to the St. Louis Blues and kind of make an immediate impact. Chernyshov, interesting pick for the Capitals. I could see them picking a defenseman more so than a forward, but I'm pretty high on Chernyshov, as he goes on to say, 6'2", 190, big Russian winger. That's a very solid net front presence. I think he's going to be a solid middle sixer. 18th. Well, the New York Islanders don't have the 18th overall pick if you're watching this. Before I went to go film this, Chicago, New York swapped the first-round picks as well as the Islanders picked up a second-round pick. Michael Hage, when looking at Michael Hage, he's a very boomer-bust guy in my opinion. He has a decent amount of weaknesses, but also some of the strengths are so promising in his game. I wouldn't hate even Chicago taking him here, but Chicago probably go with the defenseman. Let's see if they have him here. Liam Greentree to the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm pretty high on him. 90 points in 64 games this season. It was very impressive. 6'2", 6'3". Bennett Seneca going to Chicago. So maybe that's the guy that they're targeting at 18th overall. I don't think he's going to be available at 18th. This guy's shooting up the boards. I think he's probably going to go top 15 at this point. Sasha Boiver. Boiver's very solid. I like that pick for the LA Kings. Very speedy, very, very good skater. Do I think that he's a legit top 20 prospect? No, but at 21st, that'd be very solid. Tarek Parasak. Parasak, another controversial guy because he came out of nowhere, had no points in 4 WHL games last year, then goes for 105 this season. Was playing with some pretty elite talent like Zach Funk, Riley Height, Cohen Zimmer. Prince George was a wagon, but I think Parasak is a legit NHL prospect. Aaron Kiviharu, yeah, I could see the Toronto Maple Leafs going with a defenseman. I had them taking Cole Hudson, but a lot of people said that that's not going to happen considering Brad Treliving loves his bigger defenseman. I understand that, but I just think Toronto probably needs to go defenseman with this 23rd overall, and if an Adam Juracek isn't there anymore, I think at 23rd, maybe they take an EJ Emery here. I could definitely see that, but I think they probably go defenseman considering their young defensemen are not looking very promising right now. And then Teddy Stiga from the U.S. Developmental Program, another very solid winger. This pick is actually going to be later now that I think about it, considering Edmonton is in the Western Conference Finals. But this would be another very solid pick for the Anaheim Ducks. I think I might have even had him going to... No, I think I had him going to Ottawa in my most recent mock draft. He's going to be a solid middle sixer, a solid offensive middle sixer. Pretty high floor for an Anaheim Ducks. You're not swinging for the fences at 24th overall, considering most of their pieces are in place. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think Berkeley Cadden far too high, even though I really like Konstantinius. Berkeley Cadden was far too low in the mock draft. Konstantinius was far too high, in my opinion. Definitely an interesting overall list from Daily Faceoff. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Who do you think is going to shoot up last minute and go like top 5, top 6? Is Bennett Seneca going to end up doing that? Who do you think is going to fall? Berkeley Cadden looks like a candidate to potentially do that. And I'll be seeing the next one.